What's going on live? It's your boy Billy Rowe. It's Wednesday, and normally I do the Wednesday word, which I just completed about 10 15 minutes ago. But tonight we got a bonus intersation. Tonight's intersation is going to be figuring out life as you go with my family, my kin. Brian. Intersation is going to be. Hey, Brian, can you turn the volume down on your on my your family computer? I'm getting delay and feedback. There we go. Good. But basically, with my family, it's back, Brian. I'm still hearing feedback. Yeah. If you have the live show up, it's going to create feedback because we're delayed to the audience that's live.
Gotcha. All right.
So anyway, I just wanted to tell you guys I'm excited about tonight's show. The first thing I got to do, because I promised that I would do this. So I was talking to my coworker, Maddie, today, and I was telling her about this intersation that's going to take place tonight. And I told her that, yeah, I'm really excited because I'm going to be talking to a millennial. And she was like, aren't you a millennial? I was like, no, I'm not a millennial. And she said, well, when were you born? And I said, 1981. She said, you're a millennial. I thought that I was Generation X. Unfortunately, I lied to myself all these years. I'm actually a millennial. I'm the first class of the millennials. 1981 is where it starts. So Maddie was right. I was wrong. I told you I would admit that live. So I'm not a but jumping into it, I want to first tell you guys what Intersation is. Intersation is a combination of interview and conversation. So in my life, I have tons and tons of friends, acquaintances, family members, coworkers, business partners that I interact with. And we typically have deep conversations, but sometimes those conversations go even deeper. And so what Intersations is a way of me literally opening up a lens to you guys so that you can be a part of these conversations. And hopefully the benefit is that because you guys are now brought into the conversation, we all collectively grow together. So tonight's topic about figuring out life as we go, I want to take a moment to allow my guest, Brian, to introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself. Go ahead. Shoot, Brian.
Outstanding. So thanks again for having me, Billy. I definitely appreciate it. For those who don't know me, my name is Brian Bulaya. I am a transportation planner here in California. I'm an entrepreneur. And most recently, I'm the co-host of the We Don't Know Yet podcast, where we talk about various topics as it relates to self-improvement, self-discovery, and a lot of different topics, trying to get all of us to the next level. So talking about figuring out life, when we first were kind of playing around with this concept, I was really intrigued because this is stuff that we talk about on the podcast all the time, and that figuring out life is this adaptive process, right? That we're all trying to figure it out as we go along. It's all about trying to really figure out key connections and really trying to harness what the truth is at that moment and trying to see how it applies in the future. So trying to do all these things concurrently has been a ride. And I'm only 25, so I have a lot more life to live.
Hey, look, it starts going faster at 25. I can tell you that right now. Because now I'm 37 and I feel like I used to say I'm only 25 too. So that was 12 years ago that I started saying that. And now I'm 12 years later. So it goes fast. I want to take a second to tell you guys why I chose to have Brian on this particular topic. So for me, the millennials, us as millennials, we get a bad rap that we're lazy, that we are not driven, that we're not the baby boomers, which was the alleged greatest generation ever. But I think Brian kind of shapes that or rebels against that model. He has always been somebody, in my opinion, who has been driven, hungry for wisdom and knowledge, and not willing to settle for simply not knowing. So I really, number one, after listening to your podcast, a few of your episodes, I really value what you're bringing to the podsphere, to where you're bringing, hey, look, we don't know, but you're not stopping at we don't know. You're incorporating yet, meaning that we are seeking, we are trying to find, trying to learn this knowledge so that we can apply it to our lives, so that we don't forever have to say we don't know. So I really value that about you as a young man, and as a generational peer. And it's good to see that your drive, it just speaks contrary to the statistics that millennials are lazy and they don't apply themselves and they feel like everything should be handed to them. So I commend you for that. So no worries. You already shared a little bit about what the topic means to you. Is there anything else you want to add about what the topic of figuring out life as you go means to you? Because I feel like it's a synonym to we don't know yet.
Exactly. So I think you encapsulated very well. And I think figuring out life it's about being a lifelong learner. So like you're saying, a lot of people have their perceptions of millennials that we're all just trying to kind of have everything given to us. But if you talk to a variety of my friends, the people that hang hungry, everybody's trying to get to the next level. Everyone's trying to take what their parents have maybe established and take that to a whole nother spectrum, something that none of us could have even thought was possible. So I kind of parallel life to yoga. I started doing yoga when I was in college. And so one of the first things the teacher told us was, there's going to be some stretches that you're not going to be able to do. There's going to be some poses that are just utterly impossible for you right now because you're just not flexible. You're just starting out. But it's all about the journey, the process, rather than the destination, right? So that's what we really equate the podcast to as well. Is like lifelong learning by doing, and just figuring out as we go along. If you listen to the podcast, the early episodes, like the audio is terrible. We're here, like you hear murmurings in the background. We don't know how to do a podcast, but as it went along, as it's growing, now we're moving to season 2. We're seeing like leaps and bounds from where we started. So I feel like life's the same sort of process.
I agree with you. And I'm dealing with those growing pains right now, starting to launch into the YouTube world where, I started off with a headset and, okay web camera. And so this weekend I actually started like investing in my equipment to make sure that I have a good mic, a better camera, working on making sure I'm working as close as I possibly can to my router so that I have a good connection. Those are the things that you learn as you go. So I like that you equate that to learning as you go and building upon those lessons. So with that, there's some key areas that I think when I was thinking about this particular topic that I wanted to talk to you about. And so I kind of have them in sections. We might jump around a little bit, but for the most part, they're kind of encapsulated in sections. So the first question I'd like to lead off with you, being that you are in this place of life where, I'm going to call it, you're really an adult now, because now you can rent a car. That's what I used to gauge it by. Right. Now you can actually go rent a car. Right. So you're really an adult now. There's no, I'm still young. I'm still trying to figure it out. So since you're in that world, can you do me a favor and define in this particular stage where you're at in life now, what is happiness to you?
Gotcha. That's a beautiful question. I think I used to try to play with that idea all the time when I was a kid. And so I'm going to maybe start off from there. When I was a kid, it's like happiness is as simple as getting to do the things that you want to do, right? So as long as I got to go to the park today, I got to play basketball, I saw my friends, I'm happy. It's a very conditional thing. If I got the gift or the toy that I wanted from Toys R Us, I'm happy, right? Right. And I feel like it's such a simplistic view of happiness, but I think I held on to that paradigm of thought all the way through even college, right? So as long as I got to do the things I want to do, hang out with the people I want to do, there was a cause and effect. So then I started thinking about it now, and it's like, if I don't do those things, am I unhappy? Am I unhappy because I'm going to work, and then after work is maybe you go to the gym or you talk to a few friends and it's sleep and it's a cycle? Does it mean I'm unhappy, or does that mean that I should be focusing on something else? So now in my life, and I'm still a young person, but I think maybe my aim isn't so much happiness, but more so the pursuit of peace. And that's something that really like flared up to me today was I'm more, because since happiness is so fleeting and it's based on my external environment, it's going to be this roller coaster ride. It's always going to be ups and downs. You're going to have the peaks and valleys. But I think at this stage of my life, I want some consistency. I want something that even if everything is going well, I'm at peace. Even if everything is just, in turmoil, I'm still at peace, and having something that keeps me balanced. So I think happiness for me is having a mind that's at peace. I can go to sleep, I put my head down, and I can actually go to sleep. That is happiness to me.
You're not getting beat up by the day that you've experienced. You're not getting beat up by the things that you didn't accomplish.
Holding on to those things, or reflecting and just holding on. I think even when I was in grad school, I was really, since it was I went to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign for my master's, and I was out there in Champaign for 2 years. And while I was there, it was it was a fast-paced program trying to get our master's degrees. And we were also running a startup company at the same time, City Space. So it was like 60, 70 hours a week. I was working and just churning out work as fast as I could. And I would go to sleep and I couldn't sleep. I'd be like thinking about all the different contracts that we're trying to get, or the people that I had to interview the next day, or the exam that I had next week. And needless to say, I wasn't as happy as I could have been, but I also didn't have that peace that I was aspiring for. So now I'm at a place where things are stable and I should be happy, and I am happy and content, but contentment, peace, joy is more the aim now.
So I want to ask you this. So when you say contentment, peace, and joy, how do you embrace contentment but not embrace complacency?
That's a good question.
My bad. I'm throwing from the cuff right now based on what you're saying.
So I think that contentment is about acceptance, right? So acceptance of the people around you. It's acceptance of where you're at, your lot in life. At this point in time, there's all these things we want to do in the future, but I'm content with where I'm at now. But there's nothing wrong with paired with this sense of acceptance, the drive, the hustle, the aspiration that you need to have. You need to have both sides, and I think you need to be someone that reconciles these two things. So being accepting of where you're at in life, but not losing that thought of where I'd like to be, or with the things I have to do today to get me to the place I'd like to be at. So being able to have both of those things, but I think acceptance is key.
So you have them simultaneously. The acceptance allows peace in the present, and the aspirations to acquire the things in the future. It's the acceptance of the presence that allows you to continue to pursue that. Like, hey, I'm content. I'm happy. I'm at peace at where I'm at. I don't feel like I'm off base. I don't feel like I'm behind. Even if I am behind, I'm still at where I'm at. But tomorrow I get to take another step in the direction of where I want to be.
Exactly. So maybe if I gave an example, like a real life example, a friend of mine, she is aspiring to be an actor or an actor.
That's hard.
Right? She wants to be an actress. So she's in LA, she's doing her thing, and she's very good at what she does. However, you're trying to be an actress at the same time, you got bills to pay today. Like you ain't getting no royalties or anything from your acting job today. Like you got to eat. So she has to work overnights in order to leverage the pay so that she's stable, so that she can go out and do the auditions that she needs to do. So she is accepting of where she's at now, but then also reconciling that with her aspirations and being able to do both concurrently.
You know, what you just shared reminds me of when I used to work two jobs. So I used to work for Applebee's as a server at night, and I would work during the day as an analyst. And it was when I first started doing analytical work. And I remember going to my second job with like a joy. Not that I had to go to it. I was tired. Trust me, I was tired, but I needed the money to pay the bills that were coming in and meet some of my financial obligations. Right. So I was tired, and I would go to these tables and give them the best experience that I could. And I remember there was one night where a customer said, they set like 3 tables at one time, and I let the people know, hey, look, I got this person ahead of you, opened my communication, did what I could do. But when I got to the third person who had to wait a little bit, she was like, oh, you almost lost your job. And I was like, huh, okay. And it's funny because in my mind, I calculated like I almost lost my job as an analyst because I didn't get to you because you were third. Okay, well, I don't know how that happens, but I didn't allow that to impact me because I realized I was doing something that I needed to get done. I was doing something that I needed to do to meet the goals that I needed. Now, fortunately, the analytical thing kind of took off. So I'm now in a place where I don't have to work 2 jobs and I make better money. But there was that time, there's that space, like you said, she's an actress. There's that space where you're not getting money, but PG&E, or she's in Southern California. So Edison and all the other things you have in Southern California are not waiting for their payments. They're not taking IOUs of your success. They're taking money today. So what are you putting on your bill today? I want to still kind of dive in on that happiness because you kind of touched the base about childhood being a place where, you know, getting to do what you wanted to do was your happiness, and then kind of being in adulthood and finding that contentment and that peace and that mindset of acceptance and joy. How do you glean joy from your daily processes?
And when you say gleaning joy from your daily processes, in that process in which you may not be, you may not feel like it aligns with who you are as a person, or you may feel like not as content in that role.
Right. Like a role that is, let's say a role that is not where you're looking, like you said, looking in the future where you want to be, but it is the role that you're in now. So when I was doing things at Applebee's, I was not in the process of learning analytics, which was a role that I wanted to go into. However, I still found joy in that process. So how do you glean joy in your day-to-day processes of your life?
Gotcha. So one would be knowing that one aspect of joy would be that this specific role contributes to where I'd like to go. So as long as it aligns very well with the person I want to be, the role I'd like to be in, the city I'd like to live in, if it aligns with me getting to that point, that brings me joy, knowing that it's a stepping stone to my progress. But maybe a caveat or a second point in that is, I think joy is not self-serving. So happiness is looking at myself, right? Contentment, maybe, also looking at myself, but joy is like looking at other people. How am I serving other people in this role, and how are other people benefiting, or how am I being a blessing in this specific space? So even if, working overnights isn't helping me become an actress or an actor one day, I know that the role that I'm in is uplifting everyone's quality of life. Or I know that me spending that 20 minutes with that individual where I could have been somewhere else may have saved their whole day, their whole week, their whole month. And that will bring you joy. So making sure that you are being placed in a space where you can build community, in which you can really impact change. And I think that is where real joy comes from.
Okay. I agree with that. I think when I was on my way home today, I was leaving out of the elevator at work, and there was a little quote on this picture, and it said, "If we are not here to help each other, then what are we here for?" Like, the reality is we're moving through this life, and if it's only all about you, then you're honestly, and it's going to sound cold, but you're useless to humanity because it's all about you. So when you're not here, then it can be all about us, I guess. So I like that you said that it's about what you're contributing to your community. So I want to shift gears because that's the happiness aspect. And I want to shift gears into the relational aspect, into the relationships. And there's different areas, but I kind of want to focus on areas individually because figuring out life is complex, and especially when it comes to the relationship arena. So I want to start with what I think is, for any human on this earth, the most important relationship that, and it's only in my opinion, the most important relationship that we ever engage in is the relationship that we have with ourself, our self-worth, our self-image, and our self-love. So when it comes to where you're at right now in life, how are you figuring out the relationship with yourself?
That's a great question. So I think before I start that, I need to really like wrap my mind around relationships. I really suck at relationships. That's something I have to be so clear. Like with my girlfriend, I'm still working on, cultivating great friends, my family. That's something I'm trying to improve in. But like you said, I think the relationship you have with yourself should be the very first relationship that you pinpoint or that you target. For me, I realized that there was a lot of habits. There was a lot of bad rapport that I was building with people because I didn't really know some of the energy or some of the vernacular I was using with people. So some of the different things I've been using to be more reflective and self-aware has been like journaling, actually. So I actually started journaling last year around this time, actually. And it was helping me to kind of unpackage. It was right after grad school, like I said, not sleeping, always like thinking about stuff, and it would keep me up, and I wouldn't be present. Even when I would be having a conversation with you right now, I'd be thinking about what I got to do next week or that meeting I had 2 hours ago. I would not be present, but we'd have an engaging conversation. So what I learned is that by journaling and writing all these things down, I'm able to unpack it and see, oh, like, you were wrong in saying that to that person, or, oh, you need to be maybe a little more sacrificial in your time with this person. And it helped me to kind of shift some of my habits. So being in prayer, being in the word has helped me a lot this year. Also thinking about like meditation, like really taking those deep breaths. And like, I've been going through these guided meditations. I don't know if you do meditations.
I don't do meditations, but I have done meditations when I took yoga classes. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like almost sleeping in some, I don't even remember what the name of the position was. It was like the laughing cow or something. but I was ready to pass out. I was like, man, this feels good.
It feels good. It's necessary because it calms you down. It centers you. You feel balanced. So you walk into future interactions more patient. You're listening, like you're actually willing to hear what that person has to tell you, and you're receptive. And so these are some of the things that have helped me be a relationship builder or a bridge builder with some of the people in my life.
Okay. So it sounds like meditation is one of the things that you do to love yourself, to give yourself that space to have peace, and to give yourself that space to have patience with yourself. I think it's funny because you said you were bad at you are and were bad at relationships. And I think one of the things is we fail to understand is the reason why our relationship with ourselves is so important, and it's important to have it to be healthy, is because we bring ourselves into every other relationship. So you're bringing this person who is distraught and not aligned properly, and you're presenting that person and impacting or presenting that person to other people, and then impacting them when they're in relationships with you, whether it's romantic, business, friendship, passing, acquaintance, or whatever it may be. You're then impacting their life because of the fact that your own self-relationship is not aligned properly. So with that, I want to move to the next area of relationship, which is family. So before I ask you about how you're figuring out the life of family, can you do me a favor and share with the audience where your origins are from? I know you're from the United States, but what your origins are from as far as your family's cultural background, and then explain a little bit about what that is so that they can understand what the family dynamic is for you.
Gotcha. So grew up here in Sacramento, California, but my parents and my family are originally from the Democratic Republic of Congo. So that's right in the middle of Africa. My parents both immigrated here. Right before I was born, my dad he had the vision for going to become a medical doctor. My mom came here and she had the aspirations of being a nurse assistant. So they groomed all of us, me being the eldest, and there's 5 of us. You know, I have 4 younger siblings. So you can imagine a really big African family living in the States. It was quite an experience. So for us coming from Congo, even though, you know, we're American kids, you know, we're hanging out with all of our friends and stuff like that. When you came home, it was a very African upbringing, right? So we're eating all of our Congolese meals. You have food on the table. You have food. You have everything that you need at the house. You know, mom is speaking French. Dad may be on the phone talking, speaking in Swahili to people back home. So there's a lot of strong linkages between us here, other family that's in the States, but also family abroad that lives in France, or those who live back in Congo, or those who've even immigrated as far as like Hong Kong. The family dynamic is very strong. So for us, after, you know, the idea is that when you're a Congolese kid, you're an African kid, there's very strict things that you should be doing, right? You're making sure that your grades, you're not bringing anything lower than an A home, right? Like, you know, like making sure that you're graduating college, you're going to go get that another degree, but you're going to come home afterwards. There's an expectation to make sure that you're taking care of home. So I think for us, it's been ingrained into us and something that we're trying to pass down to our kids too, because they'll be second generation Americans, but you don't want to lose the traditions, the language, the culture, and the way that we were brought up.
Right. That's one of the things that I've always valued in the time that I've spent with the family is the culture is just so different. Being like an African American where you're second, third, fourth generation of the people who got here as slaves. So you don't have that culture connection back to any mainland continent, any place. You're starting your history from a blank slate of slavery. And in that, I feel like there were some areas for myself even where I didn't push myself hard enough and didn't focus on that excellence that I've just heard you share until I got later on down the road and became an adult. Now, where your path was college, go and get this education, come back, go and get a good job, be successful at it, and also focus on entrepreneurship. For me, it was always about hustle, figure it out, make sure you're applying yourself, make sure that you're doing your best, putting your best foot forward, and then try to mirror and reflect that for your children to see as the example, and then let them make the choices that they want to make. So I thought it was important that you share your family dynamic. So in your family dynamic, how has it been being the oldest sibling and also trying to figure that out as life is throwing its curves at you?
Yeah. Coming back home was something that I never expected. So although it was something that was expected of me, it was not something that I expected for myself.
Right.
After from grad school, I had the plans and the vision to move to DC. I was really interested in international development. I wanted to work for like USAID or for the World Bank. I had no intentions of coming back home, but God has a way of getting you back where you need to be. So when I landed a job, I moved back home. I'm actually in the same room that I grew up in, right? So I'm in the same room and everything's the same. I had to fix it up to the way that I liked it, but I realized that, you know, being the eldest as an expectation to come take care of home. And I realized in the past year and a half of being here, my parents who have worked so hard to get us to this place, to a place where I can be stable. I don't have any debt. I don't have like some of the different things that a lot of my friends, a lot of my community has to deal with. They've really pushed themselves, put us in a place of success one day. Right.
Right.
Now I see that they're getting older. It's challenging. It's something that I wasn't prepared for. It's like now they're getting older and they need help just around us. You know, like I see some of my other friends' parents and like there's joints that are hurting and like their hip is like this. I got physical therapy on Tuesday and it's like they need to know people, right? Not just to
Right.
help around the house or help financially, but like to just be around and keep them young and keep them thinking about like things that they could still do, knowing that life isn't over yet. They could still do certain things and keep a certain level of enthusiasm. So that's my relationship with my parents has grown like a ton, but with my siblings, it's grown a lot too. Right. So before it was just like you were all about the same age. Between me and the youngest, she's about to be 19. So it's about 7 years between us.
Okay.
Just like everyone kind of does their own thing. We're siblings. We're on the same boat. Nobody's better off than any other person. But now it's like I need to take more of a leader position in their lives, like a more of a leadership role in their lives, and saying like, hey, there's some things you're not doing right. Like, let's steer to the left, or, oh, let's make sure that let's do these things for you so that you're set up financially. I need to kind of subsume the space that my parents once held, because now they can go off and do their own thing. I got to kind of take their place. Right. So I've kind of found myself in that weird position.
Okay. So then, because you started kind of speaking about it, you said your friends and you're looking at those things. How are you figuring out friendship? So when we were growing up as a kid, my parents would always say to me, well, don't worry about those friends. They're not going to be friends for the rest of your life anyway. So don't worry. You're going to move on and you're going to make new friends as you become an adult. And, and for me, honestly, that couldn't have been further from the truth, because a lot of people that I went to high school with and junior high school with and elementary school with, I am still connected to them today. In part because of social media allows that to be a little easier to do. But in many ways, it's because we kept those connections where our kids call each other aunties and uncles, where, that we spend certain holidays together as like families, half friend, half families. So for you in your friendships, how have you had to figure out life with living in Sacramento, being raised here, moving out of the state, and then moving back to the state? How have you figured out friendships?
That's a great question. So moving from Sacramento, I left home. I was 16 years old. That's when I graduated high school, and I went to Cal Poly Pomona for my undergrad degree. And so that transition was, being someone that's so young, being on the college campus, you just want everybody to like you, right? You just want to be kind of just the guy that's around, agreeable, go with the flow type of thing. So you slowly cultivate a large group of friends, right? People that you can hang out with, you party with, all that sort of stuff.
Right.
But as I kind of grew older, and from SoCal moving to outside of Chicago and then coming back out here, I realized that like I've had friends like the co-host for We Don't Know Yet. Like, he's my best friend that I've known since I was 6 years old, playing on the same soccer team.
Right.
And so been able to kind of keep our relationship very tight, and with a lot of other people keep a strong relationship. But the ones who held on were the ones who challenged me most. The ones who really were setting the bar. Like, if somebody got a job at the UN, the rest of the group of friends are trying to top him. Like, I got to get a better job. I got to show him up. If somebody was, I don't know, like, let's say put on 20 pounds of muscle in a year and a half. Like, all right, now I got to get back in the gym. So it's the large friends, a group of friends that I had has shrunk down considerably to that of like a period. That's how small that circle is. Wow. So now it's really just the people who challenge you, who are like really doing real notable things and challenging themselves on taking the bar to the next level. That's really been the criteria for staying in that circle.
Yeah. So one of the things, as I failed to mention this earlier, but one of the things that really impressed me about you is a couple of years ago, you actually reached out to me and wanted to sit and have a conversation. Just talk, just have a conversation about, hey, we want to ask you some questions. And I thought it was very fascinating that you brought people with you to this conversation. I was like, yeah, we can meet and talk. That's cool, whatever. And I gave you very genuine, heartfelt advice. But it's fascinating to see that even in that advice, I don't know if you remember, but one of the things that I told you is my biggest advice to anybody is to be honest with yourself, because that allows you to be true to yourself. And so when you say your circle is dwindled down to a dot, I am very fortunate and realize that my situation may be a little different than a lot of people's, where I have tons of friends that are genuine friends, not like, oh, I just call them my friends. I'm not talking about MySpace friends. I'm talking about real friends. But I know a lot of people that have that literally, instead of a circle, they have a dot. Like, my dude is this person, or my girl is this person, and that's really all I'm rocking with. So I think that's interesting that you've decided to stay true to yourself, and in staying true to yourself, you have to realize that sometimes friendships and relationships have to dwindle off, and you have to stop nourishing them to keep them alive and allow them to die off and wither away. So I think that's commendable that you've done so. So now we're going to talk about, since you said my girlfriend, I assume y'all are still together and making that work the best you can. How are you figuring out dating in your relationships right now?
Okay. So first and foremost, I kind of alluded to her earlier when I said my friend who wants to be the actress. That's my girlfriend. So she's April. So she's my friend, she's my love, she's my partner, and we're just building life together. So I live in Sacramento and she lives in Long Beach, right? Ooh. Doing this long distance thing, and it's been about 1.5 years. And so the beautiful thing is I'll, go down see her once a month, or she'll come up once a month. So we've been able to engage in this very fruitful, reciprocal relationship. So what we've learned in this past 1.5 years is that long distance is actually for the birds. It's actually quite tragic. Long distance is not fun at all. So what we've learned is that there's so many different things that we have to do in order to nourish this relationship, right? There's certain times that someone has to call or check in, or, hey, this is something that I'm doing right here, and this is what I'm seeing, and I want to share it with you. So what it's taught me, and what, being with April has taught me, is that I need to learn how to be a lot more sacrificial. It's taught me that I need to do things that are unnatural to me. And
can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, like, I think I'm naturally, and all of us are naturally very selfish people. We're self-centered. We have things that we want to do. Like, I come home from work, I'm trying to go chill. I want to relax. I want to watch some anime. I just want to kick it. Right. But doing something that's not natural to me means I may need to text April, see what she's up to, or give her a call. Or if, she called, or if, I don't know, she's out on the road, she may take a picture, because she may be busy, but she knows she has to do something that's unnatural to her, to make sure that we still feel connected, even though we're miles apart. So we went to a wedding a few weeks back, and the pastor at the wedding actually said that, in that you need to be doing things that are unnatural to yourself, not just in relationships, between, a man and woman or whomever, but between you and your family, you and your friends. You have to continue to be very self-sacrificing in order to see that relationship work and thrive. So that's, I think, the biggest thing it's taught me. And it's taught me also that we talk about self-improvement, and we don't know yet is this platform that we're creating is getting larger every day. And thinking about how we're pushing ourselves forward physically, spiritually, and mentally every day. But she knows how much of a type A person I can be. And because of that, sometimes I forget to live life. Like, to really engage life, to really just like, let's go for a walk. Let's do something spontaneous, right? And I'm realizing that she brings like this breath of fresh air for me, to make sure I'm still alive and still engaged, and, making sure I'm talking to my sister in the right way, make sure I engage my mother in the right way, all those type of things. So it's been a great experience so far, and it's going to continue moving forward.
Okay. And so here's the last area, and it's interesting because you're a college grad, you're in your profession, you're in transportation development. How are you figuring out those professional network relationships? Because transportation may be something you're in for the remainder of your life, but if I heard you correctly, you thought you were going to go to DC, or you maybe still want to go to DC and start working on international type business.
Mm-hmm. So professional development, that's been key. That's really been my focus this past year. And I think that's something I've been trying to articulate even when I was in college. So when I was in college, the only way I paid for school wasn't because of my parents. My parents had 4 other kids, 2 of which started school really soon after I did. They started college right after I did. So for them, they were not going to be able to pay for 3 kids at the same time in college. So as soon as the 2 younger ones after me started college, I was like, don't worry about me. I'm going to figure it out. So from that point, I'd have 2 or 3 jobs on campus at a time. You could catch me on Tuesday on the bus.
Hold on, Brian.
Like,
you're breaking.
You guys are going to throw those away.
Brian, you're breaking up a little bit. You said at that point you had 2 or 3 jobs at a time, and what?
Yeah, so I'd have 2 or 3 jobs at a time. I'd be working on campus. I'll go to the bakery on campus. When it would close at 7, I'd be there right there. Like, you guys aren't going to throw this away. Just give it to me. So I'll go with bags of food back to the house. We'd be recycling cans and bottles, unbeknownst to my parents, right?
Right.
You know, the cans and bottles, so I could put gas in the car. So we did all these things while grabbing as many scholarships and grants as we could to pay for school, right? And I did the same sort of hustle for grad school to get that paid for. So when it came to getting those grants and scholarships, it was really leveraging all the connections on campus. So really going in for informational interviews with some of the professors, going in, talking to deans and seeing what was available and making sure that they knew the plight that I was in and knowing that I was the best person for them to fund, right? And being very articulate with what I needed, why I needed it, and just kind of persuading them in that fashion. So now as a professional, I've joined a lot of different mentoring groups. There's a group that I'm in now as part of the American Planning Association. There was a small group of 11 of us that were admitted into the plan group, right? So there's a cohort that's admitted every year. 11 people are accepted, and they pair you with the best professionals in this area as it relates to your industry. So I think like 1 in 3 people were chosen. So we got in and paired me with my mentor, Ron Milam. He's a principal planner at Fair and Peers and taught me so much in 9 months that probably would have taken me 9 years to learn. So I think I've leveraged mentoring and finding good mentors, and that's really helped accelerate me professionally. And I did kind of the same thing in the startup world too, is going to various conferences, seeing who is that person that was kind of in the back, kind of quiet, not talking too much. Those were the people that you really wanted to talk to. And tapping some of those people. So Hugh Malotzi, he used to work at Intuit, and now he's launched a few different startups himself. Is another person that I really admire and look up to. So I'd say informational interviews, LinkedIn has been one of my key drivers. Instagram, that's where you find a lot of peers that can also mentor you. And I've been trying to tap all those concurrently. So it's really helped out a lot. Okay.
Man, you actually started kind of drifting into the next area with what you did in order to start paying for your college. So that's the relationship area. But the next area I want to jump into is within finances. One of the greatest concerns that I have for our public school education is that we do not prepare our children to be good financial stewards of their money and sometimes of their time. But when it comes to your finances, there's 3 key areas, and you can kind of blanket these together. But how are you figuring out finances from the perspective of paying bills, the perspective of saving money, and then entertainment /and/or travel?
Okay. The way I look at my expenses, the way I look at my finances is that I bin everything into 3 categories. So I have my needs. That's where all my bills, my necessary expenses fall into. My wants. You know, I want to have this, cup of ice cream, on a hot day, or my desires, right? And my desires being maybe I want to take a cruise in April and I want to go to Baja and Ensenada. So the desires 99% of the time don't get funded, right? Because we can't just be taking cruises all the time to Baja. Like, you got to save the money.
Right.
The wants, sometimes get funded. I'd say maybe 20% of the time. And they're funded through maybe a portion or a line item in my budget that says miscellaneous, right? The ones that I may have $100 a month, if that, to spend on stuff that I like, whether I need to get some jeans, I need to get that little ice cream or a cup of coffee, but my needs are always paid for. So we actually interviewed a good friend of ours, Amobi Okugo. He is the founder of A Frugal Athlete. And A Frugal Athlete is a website that shows athletes, professional athletes, ways in which they could be financially independent and financially literate, right? So we just had him on the show.
Do you have his website, by the way?
Yeah, so it should just be afrugalathlete.com. But if I am saying that wrong, you can just type in A Frugal Athlete and it'll be the first thing that pops up.
Got it.
And so they were recently featured on Forbes, Market Watch, and him being a professional athlete himself. He plays for the Portland Timbers. He's been playing professional soccer for a number of years. One of the biggest things that we agreed on is the necessity to be frugal, like to save your money. Anyone who knows me knows that if we're going anywhere, I'm not spending any money. Like, we could just look. That's one thing, April, I'm sorry, she gets on me too. It's like every dollar I'm trying to pinch, because every dollar saved is a dollar earned. And we know that this money is going to be used in a variety of ways next year once we have a solid number of savings up. So going back to your question, making sure that my bills are always paid, making sure that, the necessities are taken care of, having an emergency fund. That was one thing that I was very, very particular about when I got home. I have a stash of money set aside that I can never touch, but that's like the Lord only knows emergency fund. That's where, we'll make sure that things are getting paid for. But then you'll have your disposable savings. You may have money that you're putting towards a mutual fund or Roth IRA. So trying to be smart with my money, and the ways in which we do that is just saving as much as we can. So we've been listening to a lot of Dave Ramsey. A lot of people listen to him, and that's like his number one thing, is just saving as much as you can and just not being spontaneous with your spending.
So one of the things that I think a lot of people think is save their money. When you think of the term save your money, do you think save your money and put it away so that you can access it later? Or do you think in the terms of invest your money so that your money is actually at work making more money?
So a little of both, definitely a little of both. So making sure that you have, and for me, just like a lot of other people, if you see the money in your account, you're going to spend it. Because I have like that $5 over there. If things get short in my checking account, I can dip into my savings. So I think sometimes it's easier to have another bank that you bank with and have your emergency fund set there, making sure that you have 3 to 6 months of bills that can be paid from that emergency fund. But then after you've kind of set that emergency fund up, then kind of moving towards investments, because a lot of things that we think about, especially in the Black community, we think about savings, and you can have like a savings account that you're making zero interest on your money. Whereas you can be setting up a mutual fund account that may be making 12% compound interest, right? So fixed interest and compound interest are two completely different things. And billionaires are made from compound interest. So I think that that's one of the things that I'm taking from Dave Ramsey, is that starting as early as possible. So if I'm 25, like that's something I need to set up now, because that money will be so much larger when I'm 50. But if I start even just 5 years from now, that money would be considerably less. So trying to do both concurrently is pivotal.
Matthew just said, on that note, let me play these Mega Millions quick picks right quick. the lottery on that compounded lottery interest. I think that's critical, and that's one thing that I had to learn kind of over time. My parents taught me how to pay bills and how to budget a checking account, but they didn't teach me a whole lot about saving and investing, and that is something that I have had to pick up and glean through relationships, through reading, through documentaries. Shoot, one of my favorite shows is American Greed. I will watch that and be like, man, these people are applying all this energy to the wrong thing when if they just took the time to apply to the right things, they'd be millionaires.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's about like, simple like 401k at my job. Look, I'm not really big on 401k, but I am big on 100% rate of return. So whatever you're willing to match at 100%, you can have that money and I'll set it off to the side. And like you said, because that money is out of sight and out of mind, it just comes out. It's out before I even get my check. So I don't have to worry about it. I'm fortunate to work for an organization that has employee stock purchase. That gives me a return on my money almost instantly. Now, there is a period of time that money has to be locked in. However, the fact that it's locked in means that I can't touch it. I know it's there, but I can't touch it, can't access it. So that money gets to stack. And the return right now, I think if I looked at because I look at my numbers once a week on where my investments are at. So the return, I think right now is almost at about 30% just for the employee stock program that I'm participating in. So versus having that money in a savings account that I'm going to say, oh, you know what? I need a new microphone for my YouTube videos. Let me go and take it out of my savings. Oh, I need a new camera for my YouTube videos. Let me go and take that out of my savings. So versus me spending that money, I'm actually able to say that money is taken out in advance. And my goal is personally to have 15% of my income saving out of every single check in accounts that I can't touch by the beginning of next year, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you take 15% plus your taxes, that's a lot of your income that's gone.
that's a huge point right there, because I think you made that clear distinction that why would you save all the money that's already been taxed when there's so many tax deferred investment vehicles you could use in order to grow your wealth. So a lot of people need leverage toward the latter, and that's how you really make a lot of returns. So going back to your point, like reading, like I've never read so many financial books in my life, and I never found it interesting because I didn't have no money to talk about. So now that I have a little bit of money, I'm like, I should probably know how this thing's going to work. So reading and really getting involved in your finances, I think that's information for anybody, from 25 to 75. That's something you have to be critically involved in, and knowing, going back to your point about like saving and being particular about your budget, knowing where each penny of your money is going. Because a lot of times it's like you have that card, you're just going to swipe it. You're going to swipe it, right? So that's the end of it.
Wait, what was that game on the phone? Fruit Ninja?
Like, most people don't know, myself included. I didn't know where my money is going. I was like, why am I always broke? I have this much at the first of the month and I'm broke by the 30th. That doesn't make any sense. And then when you start doing your budgets and knowing like, oh, wow, I spent $60 on coffee, or I spent like however much on plane tickets. Like, no, that's absurd. So now you start being very, very like particular with where your money goes. So at the end of the month, like you have even more money in your pocket.
Right. And realize that you don't have to spend it because it's in your pocket.
Exactly.
So let's jump into the next area. We're almost at about an hour, so we're probably going to end up going over a little bit tonight. But I want to ask you two more areas and then a third area that's just kind of like a bonus area. But one of the things when you're figuring out life that has been critical for me and my growth and my very small and hopefully soon to be bigger and bigger success has been understanding who I am and knowing what my truths are. One of my favorite questions that I ask myself probably about like once a week is, what is my veritas? What is my truth? What is my compass? So I would like to ask you, in when you're figuring things out, what is your truth? What is your guiding light? What is your compass that you utilize in order to make the best decision with the known information at the time?
Gotcha. So I'm actually in that position right now, trying to make some key decisions in my life. And first and foremost, I have to get in prayer. I have to hit the word. I got to really get in the scripture and see like, God, what do you want for my life? What would you have me do? Because a lot of times I think I rely too much on myself And even if you're carrying out very logical decisions, like those decisions aren't based on anything. They don't have any meat. They don't have any foundation. So for me, it's been really relying on God. Like, where are you leading me, and how can I be of impact to your kingdom? So that's how I really gauge a lot of the decisions within my life. But I think right here in this world, my parents have been like a huge shining light for me. So when I need help, and that's something that I think I strayed a lot from when I left for college. I was, again, trying to be reliant. Like, I don't need to call home for advice. Like, let me figure it out. Like you said, let me hustle, let me grind based on the tools that I have on hand on me right now. But now home, I found it to be so much of a blessing to come downstairs and say, Mom, let me talk to you. What do you think about this? When you were 25, what were some of the things that you were thinking about? What were things that you were fearful of? What were things that you wish you would have known that would have set you up better for the future? And these are stories sometimes that I've never heard of before because I've never asked those questions.
Right.
You know? And same with my father, who's been me before, and you know, I'm just a younger him, tapping some of the knowledge base that he has and leading me in the right direction. So I've been blessed to have those two people in my life, both of my parents in the same home, but there've been a variety of mentors and peers who've done the same thing for me. So I think going back to our community, that very small circle, I tap in with a lot of those individuals. I'll talk to April, see, what do you think? And Seema, my co-host on We Don't Know Yet, what do you think? And those people know me and they want what's best for me. So I can kind of rely on what they're saying and know that they have my best interest at heart.
Yeah. And it's good to have those people who have your best interest at heart. They know what's best for you because they know you, and they're willing to tell you even when you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You need those people in your circle, or in your dot. In the
period. You can't have people who just subscribe to what you're already thinking, or just like, oh, I think I need to move to Spain. Yeah, you need to move to Spain. Yeah, you got to just do it. Like, you don't need that. Please,
YOLO.
Sometimes you need someone to sit you down. Like, hey, look, like, you got but $2 in your pocket. Like, you owe back rent, and you know, like you have no business being in Spain right now. Like, we need to get you right before you go out there. You need people to give you those hard truths, and I'm glad to have people that are able to do that for me.
Okay. So my second to last question is, what are some of the pitfalls that you have encountered, and how have you moved past those pitfalls?
That's a good question too. You've been bringing some good questions today, man.
Appreciate it.
I think some of the biggest pitfalls that I've experienced, again, fall under that relationship category. And one of those being is trying to please everyone, saying yes to everything. Those have been huge. The latter being a huge time suck, a time waste from my day to day. So if I'm saying yes to everybody, trying to pop in on other shows, or doing strategies for startups that, you know, don't align with my purpose, that leaves me with less time to do things that I like to do. Realizing that you're just not going to please everybody. It took me 25 years to understand that very simple concept. But again, trying to be agreeable, trying to just flow with everybody. Some people are just not going to like you, and sometimes you're not going to get the response that you like, but you can't control that. So I think I fell into that pitfall a lot too, and trying to back away from that. And I think one of the biggest things is going back to not being present, because that's something I'm still stuck in. Because again, improvement, trying to be the best person we can be, reap as much potential as we can. You end up living in the future, right? You end up like just being completely absent from reality, what's happening right now, and just like all right, when we get there, what I need to do to get there, you're never here. So that's one of the biggest pitfalls I fall into. And I don't want to be that man that isn't present for his family, for my future family. I don't want to be doing all these things for my kids when they're 18 and miss out from the time they're born till when they're 18.
Right.
So
sacrifice 18 years just to get them something that they probably don't have as high of a value on in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, that's one of the biggest things, is trying to be as present as I can and really just engage as much as I can with the folks that I'm around, the folks I love and like.
One of the things you said was the time suck and learning how to say no. So right before we came on our Intersation, I did the Wednesday word, and that Wednesday word was about making space or make space. And literally that is what the topic was about, was learning how to say no, learning how to make space, because we can't make time. So learning how to make space so that we have the time to do the things that we want to do. And that becomes the priority. And one of my tools that I presented was learning to say no. What gave you the courage? How did you learn, I guess, the courage, or gather the courage to be able to start telling your peers no?
I think that courage and that maybe boldness came from a book I read. I remember it was Tools of Titans, I want to say, by Tim Ferriss, but he also has a podcast. And he said once that busyness is a form of laziness. And that quote never left me, because I'm notorious for being like, I can't, I'm busy. Like, busy was my catchphrase, right? Just to get out of things I didn't want to do, right? But yeah, so I think that now it's because I have so many things I like to do. I realize that going back to self-worth and knowing that contentment that I'm seeking, I'm not going to reach that if I'm saying yes to everything. I think that's also where the boldness comes in that, like, that lost expense of being able to actually actualize some of the things that I have and the things that I have in my lens. It's like, all right, if you keep saying yes to everything, you're not ever going to reach this path that you have for yourself. So I think that's that fear also, maybe that boldness, maybe that fear of not actualizing those things is what's making me say no. Like, that has nothing to do with me at this point. I'm really focused on getting to this end goal, this destination.
Have to break hearts and hurt feelings. That's what I tell people. I got to break hearts and hurt feelings. That's just what I got to do. Sorry, I got to go.
No. To live. You can't live everybody else's life. Like your inbox, right? Your email inbox becomes like a priority list that someone else sets for you.
Right.
And I can't live my life based on what everybody's telling me where I need to be, this 9 to 5 that someone else is telling me to be. You get one life. So you can't have everyone else placing their expectations on your life. Sometimes you gotta say no, so you can live the best life that you can.
No, I'm with that. Lastly, I want to ask you before we kind of get to closing, but before we even go there, if you have questions, please post them in the live chat. Like I said, we're going to go a little bit over tonight. So if there's questions you have or comments that you want to make, please post them in the live chat. If you haven't done so already, please take a moment to like the video. If you haven't done already, please take a moment to subscribe to this First Row YouTube channel, and please hit the bell so that way you can be notified when we're live with content like this. Hopefully you guys are finding this content uplifting, and you guys are also growing as we're having this dialogue together. But feel free to jump into the live chat to add to the conversation. This is not just a conversation between Brian and I. This is a conversation for all of us. Right. And speaking of that, so my cousin Brian as well says success is oftentimes baked into selfishness, selfish with your time, mind, craft, etc. So and one of the things when you said busyness is equated to laziness, it reminded me that every time I used to come over and your mom would ask me, "How are you, Billy?" And I'd be like, "Oh, I'm tired. And so at some point she would say, "Billy, I don't want to hear that you're tired anymore. I don't want to hear that you're tired." So she kind of started programming me even in my 20s to start thinking of, well, if I'm tired all the time, why am I so tired? And I was tired because I was busy, and I wasn't busy doing the things that were going to make me better. I was busy doing the things that were just fun to do, but they weren't progressing me. So that stuck with me even to today, where it's like, how are you? And I think, and I'm like, I want to say I'm busy. Even with my YouTube channel, I want to say I'm busy, but I don't want to use that I'm busy. And I don't want to say that I'm tired, even when I feel tired. I have long days right now, but I don't want to say I'm tired, because then I'm going to think, well, that means you're busy, and there's some things that you need to not be doing that you are doing. So I just focus on, you know what? How are you? I'm productive. That's how I am right now. Everything I do, I'm productive. So
productive and intentional.
Intentional with my time. Exactly. So I want to ask you the last question before I give you the opportunity to do some closing thoughts. But what's next for you on your journey? With what do we? I'm sorry. What's next on you for you on your journey with We Don't Know Yet? Where can people find We Don't Know Yet? What's next for you on your journey as far as the next thing that you're trying to figure out?
Okay. So again, We Don't Know Yet. It's a podcast about self-discovery and development. So many times you'll hear Nsima and I, my co-host, describing a recent book that we read, a tool that we've picked up. We both recently started jiu-jitsu. So we talk about martial arts and some of the lessons we learned from that and how it applies to life. So every week, it's a weekly show. We'll discuss something that we're learning, right? Or we'll have individuals on from a variety of different industries who discuss how they were able to get to their place, their lot in life. So again, like I talked about, Amobi, professional soccer player. We'll have Frances Wang on the show. She's a really notable news reporter here in Sacramento. So we'll always have somebody on, and they'll talk about how they got to where they're at in life and what are some of the tools and tactics that we can apply today in our lives. So We Don't Know Yet. We're going into season 2. And so we're super excited. And so we're getting a lot more bigger people on the show. Our audience is growing. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, pretty much any streaming platform that you can find. You'll find us on there. Even if you talk to your what is it? The Alexa and the Google Homes. Say We Don't Know Yet, you should be able to listen on there as well. So we're right now, as far as next 6 months, that is my focus, to really make sure that this podcast grows, our audience grows, and we create a community that is empowering one another, right, to get to the next step in life, whatever that might be. And really just trying to share what we've learned. And like you said, like, we don't know yet. Like, we've gotten to a really good place in life, but really, like, we're just winging it. So now we really don't know what's going on. So we're trying to, like, really ask these mentors, these peers, and see, like, what are the best ways we can maximize this one life that we have. As far as career, just trying to grow. I actually just recently got a promotion. So I'm a transportation planner now. Thank you. And so I'm just trying to build my career, build my network, and just try to be as present as I can. That's really what I'm going to try to do. As I turn 26 soon, that's really been my focus now, is just really be intentional about this life, because every day is a gift. So I want to make sure that I really tap into that.
All right. I feel that. So what I want to do now is, since I don't have anything, hold on. Matthew said nothing wrong with winging it as long as the wings are in flight. Make sure that says that, because my eyes is not that good. Are in flight. Thank you, Antonio Wade. I appreciate it. The thing I want to ask you now is to, just before we wrap the show, is to provide the closing comments that you have for what, again, going back to what figuring life out is as you go for you. And then I'm going to present a couple of tools. I like to present a thing called Tools for the First Row. But I want you to go ahead and give us your closing comments for the night. Okay.
So for those who've made it to the end of the show, thank you so much for just taking this time out of your night to just spend with Billy and I. This has been an engaging conversation for me. And I hope it was for everyone else. But figuring out life is it's a very dynamic process. So it's not about the end goal or the destination, but it's really about the process and really being adaptive, being patient, learning patience, and really growing and gathering the tools you need to get to that end goal. And I think we talked about a variety of things, but I think one of the key things is being or sowing into your self-awareness, really understanding who you are as a person and how you relate to your loved ones, being aware of where your money's going, being frugal at times if you need to be, so you can get out of debt, so you can pay off the house, you can pay off the car, and actually have money saved for, when you really need it. And I think, like you said, it's important to have a compass. Like, what is your foundation when everything is going awry? Like, where do you set your stance? Like, where are you setting your grounding at? And so for me, it's just really following what God has for me. And so making sure that you tap into that is key. And so I didn't mention it before, but I think another pitfall for me is worrying too much too, right? So always being sown into worry and thinking about what the future may hold, but just being present, knowing that life is a journey and just enjoy it one day at a time.
And I feel like you're kind of all in my first row of tools right now.
No way, man. I gotta hear it.
But you're spot on point. Antonio Wade. Okay, hey, let me know, man. I'm willing to do a collab with you. My contact information is in my YouTube channel, so you're welcome to reach out to me, brother. But so I want to give these tools before I let you guys go for the evening. But the first tool that and it's funny because it's come up tonight already, that I thought was very helpful for me in figuring out life on my path. So I'm fortunate. I'm 12 years ahead of Brian on his journey, and our journeys will be different because obviously we're different people. But the first thing that has helped me has been learning to listen to stories from the past and seek information from the elders and engage in reading and engage in more than just watching TV for entertainment, but watching it for information. So watching documentaries and seeing how things have been done in the past, that was the first thing for me. So having those conversations with elders, like I remember I sat down at my grandmother's house and we were having a conversation. And in that conversation, she was telling me about how, like, when I was a child, the things that she did in order to help my mother, whether it was financially or emotionally or physically with us being at her house, whatever it may be, those things that she shared kind of took off this pressure that I had on myself as a young father of, man, I feel like I'm failing in this area, or I'm not getting this right, or how come my money is not right? Why didn't I wait until I had the right amount of money to have a kid? And now I have a kid, and now I have another kid, and now I have another kid. And I'm like, dang, I'm just now getting my money right. So it has this way of liberating your expectation for how this story of your life is supposed to play out. So the first thing is learn from your elders and learn from the past, but also be willing to learn from the past and apply what is applicable to the present in that lesson. So don't just be like, I'm not out here singing Negro spirituals because I was told about slavery. And so every day I go to work, I'm ho-humming to work because of this past that I'm trying to apply to that. But I am learning that, even as a slave working hard, slaves had a work ethic. Unfortunately, it was not a willing choice. You didn't have a choice. You could get beat or you could work. But that work ethic, that lesson can apply to the present. And though I'm going to a job where I'm not getting whipped and beat to do the job, I can either do it or I can get fired. I am applying that drive, that excellence, and that hunger to be productive from, like I said, the ancestry that starts for me after slavery. So that's the first tool. The second tool that I have is don't accept not knowing as an answer or an outcome. So one of the things that I'm big with my sons about is when they tell me they don't know, I tell them that's not acceptable. I don't know is not acceptable. That's why when your show says we don't know yet, that is acceptable because it lets me know that you are seeking, you are looking, you are flipping over rocks and looking in the sky at the clouds and touching trees and trying to figure this thing out. So I don't know is not acceptable because that allows you to stop and say, I don't know, there is no expectation for me to gather that information. Whereas I don't know, but or yet allows me to say, okay, I'm going to look in some places. We have tons of technology at our fingertips. So if you stop swiping on the different games or under social media for 1 second, I mean, half the time I don't even type in my phone. I just say, okay, Google, and then it starts waiting to hear what I have to say so that it can apply what I'm looking for. So that is the other thing is you got to stop accepting I don't know as an outcome. The real thing that you should be asking yourself is, what is the solution?
This is what shows up in your Gmail.
My Google is talking to me because I said that phrase. I apologize. But that's how responsive it is. But you have to be willing to ask yourself, what is the solution, and not get overly encumbered with what the symptoms are. Because yes, you will have symptoms when there's issues, when there's obstacles, when there's challenges. But instead of wasting that time and that energy and that effort on that symptom, focus on what is the solution. The next thing is, and you've alluded to this in many ways, and I think that this will grow for you as your audience grows and as you're exposed to more intellectual, deeper thinking individuals. I think that your circle will grow from that dot and expand a little bigger to a circle, maybe a small circle, but still a circle. Right. But the thing is find and or build your tribe. So I'm big on when things don't exist that I am looking for in my reality. I'm big on, well, looks like I better get a hammer and some nails and start building. So I've looked on YouTube and I can see fights. I can see trash talking. I can see all kinds of junk information, but I don't see it. What I don't see is a lot of interactive positivity. I see people talking to people, talking at people, not to them, but at people. But I don't see interaction where there's a live chat where people are engaged and asking questions and talking and contributing information and being a part. Where I perceived is that was what YouTube's original design was for that interaction, to bring us closer, not to bring us to screens that we look at other than our TVs. So it's about finding and building your tribe. And you hit this out the park when you said having those people that will challenge you, not those yes men, those yes women that are just going to say, yeah, sounds like a great idea, do it. Yeah, jumping off the bridge sounds like a great idea. Jumping off the skyscraper sounds like a great idea. No, you need people who are going to challenge your thought process and engage with you on a level that is designed to promote growth. And then the fourth thing that I have here is, and I actually added it in at the last second, but it's be quick to forgive yourself. One of the biggest things that I've done, I think I did a video on this recently, has one of the biggest problems that I've had is that when I make a mistake, I spent, because I don't do it that often anymore. Not that I make plenty of mistakes, but I don't do this behavior anymore. I spent an abundance of time beating myself up about the mistake. And then after beating myself up and I'm trying to get to my feet and get my bearings so that I can move forward, I spend time revisiting the mistake and not letting it go and saying, man, you're stupid. How could you have made that choice? You're dumb. And so it's important to be quick to forgive yourself and forget and let it go. Don't let the lesson go, but let the offense that you have taken to yourself, let it go and move forward. And then lastly, and you said this was your last closing comment. This is my last closing comment, is it's important to have a good compass, to have a good veritas, a good truth. It's important to have that. And really, it's not about being where you want to be today. It's about being committed to who you want to become. And so figuring out life is about making that commitment and always having that compass that points to true north. whatever that may be for you. And if that direction changes, be like water. I know you've used one of your podcasts said you read the Art of War. So be like water and be able to flow and flex in and out of what it is that you perceive at different stages of your life that you want to do and what you want to be. So other than that, I thank you guys for tuning in today. Brian, thank you for coming on, man. We got to do another one of these because I feel like your wisdom is beyond your age, and people need to see this. They need to stop being, in my opinion, lazy and just trying to generally categorize the millennial generation and start actually taking time to listen to the things that they have to say and the struggles that they are encountering so that either they can help provide solutions or that they can get out the way. So other than that, thank you guys as always. Next week's show, the next show that I will have live will be another Intersation on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That Intersation will be on changing careers, I think changing careers. It'll be with a friend of mine by the name of Regia. I hope you guys can tune into that live. I'm always happy to engage with you guys. If you want to reach out to me in the comments. There's also contact information on my YouTube channel. Again, you can find Brian's podcast on any streaming media. And I'm not going to say the G word anymore because my phone will start listening to me again. But you can find him on G word and Alexia. And that's simply looking for We Don't Know Yet. Or I actually found it on Spotify with WDK Yet. They have great content. I would recommend checking them out. Their season 1 was great, and you can hear the growth as each episode moves forward. And I can't wait to see season 2. So other than that, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Brian, is there anything else that you want to say before we cut out?
No, I think you hit on all the big points, and I love those pillars. So I think that last one in forgiving yourself and moving forward in the most positive way, I think that was the best closing argument. So thanks again for having me on the show. This was an awesome conversation. I can't wait to do this again.
No problem, brother. I will talk with you soon. Thank you for tuning in, you guys. You have a great evening. One love, peace, and God bless.